Hey, episode 71 of the Nashville Artist Podcast is now out, featuring Lindsy Davis. Lindsy is a talented multi-disciplinary artist, skill collector, and cat lover. Lindsay's artistic range is truly impressive, spanning sculptures, paintings, ceramics, installations, basket weaving, printmaking, drawing, botanical inks, and more. She's a sustainable artist who often incorporates elements from her garden into her creations, showcasing her ability to build from the ground up. Lindsay shares her passion for building sculptures and painting on canvas, with a particular affinity for the visual aspects of gestaltism. She explores the concept that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, delving into perception, depth, and brain science in her thought-provoking work. Lindsay's art is a fascinating exploration of how the mind interprets and makes sense of our experiences. She provides insights into the creation process behind her captivating sculptural piece, Crevice. She also discusses her unique approach to fine art, using materials that have a historical function but repurposing them in non-functional ways. Her favorite venue is the Five Spot, and Red Arrow is her favorite art gallery. Liberation and grief are recurring themes in Lindsay's work, often presented without explicit explanations. She believes in allowing viewers to interpret her art freely, fostering connections and building bridges through their personal interpretations. Artistic influences such as Martin Puryear, Barbara Hepworth, Richard Serra, and Isamu Noguchi. Enjoy the podcast episode. Perfect. Awesome.
Great.
So what have you been up to today?
Well, I've had a very frustrating adult thing of my washing machine broke.
Oh no.
And it's still under protection warranty, so I had to spend an hour on the phone last week to get them to make an appointment, and then no one showed up. And so now I had to then email them and get another appointment, and then when I called to confirm it, the lady was like, "Oh, that's not your appointment, that's just we're going to call you and we'll make an appointment then." I'm like, okay, great. So I have my laundry in my car. I'm going to go to my friend's house after this, do it, and it sucks, but it's frustrating.
Is it a Whirlpool?
No, LG.
Oh, so it's like one of the fancier
It's like
digital or something?
Kind of, yeah, but it's not that fancy. I just have a really small house.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a 2-in-1. So I think it's a bit more complicated.
It's a 2-in-1.
Yeah, but I dry my clothes outside in the summertime.
Ooh.
In springtime, I have a clothesline.
The smell.
But
I love the smell of the sun.
It's the best.
Warming the clothes.
It's the best. So the winter time, I'll just do that, the dryer portion of it. But it's not the best. I don't know. I feel like the technology isn't where it needs to be just yet. So
yeah, 2-in-1. I've never heard of the.
Yeah, I had never until when I initially got a washer and dryer. I asked for a smaller version of them for my space, and out of the washer dryer, one of them didn't work, and I was like, "Oh, just replace that one." They're like, "No, you bought it in a pair, so we got to take it back in a pair." And I was like, okay, great. And then the lady on the phone was like, "Have you ever thought of a 2-in-1? And I was like, "I didn't know those existed." So I did research and I got one of those.
Did you go to Best Buy to get this?
No, Home Depot. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
I did get a warranty, which is why I'll be able to get it fixed for free. But if they ever can come.
Do you have any roommates?
No, I just
nice.
live by myself.
That's nice.
It's great. Yeah, I have a cat.
I was going to say, do you have a cat?
Yeah.
Nice. What's its name?
Toast.
Toast.
Yes, he was found in a car engine. So when I got him,
He was always toast.
Yeah, he was toast. He had a lot of burns on his back and his head and like scabs.
Oh.
And he healed up fine, and he's super happy. When he was growing up, because he's not even a year old yet, but my other cat Bruiser passed away in November, so they were really loving on each other and became really close.
Oh, I love cats.
Yeah, me too. I was really sad about Bruiser, but I still have Toast.
Yeah, I don't
sad.
know what it is with cats climbing up into engines or whatever, because that's how one of my childhood cats was found that way.
Yeah, they just try to, I think it's like to get warm. Yeah. And then the car turns on and then the ignition. And then like if someone doesn't notice the meows, then they'll like go and then the cat's stuck in there burning.
Oh.
It's really scary. Yeah. Be careful.
Yeah, it's how one of our cat, I can't remember which one, but like my dad came home from work one day and was like, I have this cat because it was in my engine.
Oh, yeah.
And then it became one of our own. I was like, wow. But we had a lot of cats growing up.
Yeah. They're so sweet.
I love the cats in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to pet them. I just love to watch them sunbathe.
Oh my God, with their little bellies out.
And they just look so content.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, just to be a cat like in the sun on the side of it, like on a tree or something.
I'm walking down the street and this little cat's just in its little garden, just.
Yeah, they're just like.
I want to squeeze them.
I know, they're just like wild fluff animals. Like, I don't know, they're so cute. Like I was thinking about like big cats, like jaguar, like cats that are like out in the mountain lions. That's the proper one. And but then the domestic, like they're not fully domesticated, but the house cats, they're like out, or the stray cats or whatever. They're like our mini version of those like wild big cats.
They are.
They're so sweet.
I used to watch my cat hunt.
Oh yeah.
I remember I found one of my cats named Caramel. I was like going to find him and bring him inside because it was nighttime. Yeah. And he was laying at the base of this tree and he had 3 moles with him and he was just laying there, and as they would try to crawl away, he would just go and bring it back. And I'm like, Caramel, what's going on?
What a bully.
I know, I'm just playing with him.
Yeah. That's so cute.
I know. But we'll get started here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Nashville Artist. I'm Jordan, and today Lindsy Davis is here.
Hi.
Awesome. Thank you for coming over and doing this.
Yes, my pleasure.
So where are you from?
Originally born and raised in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. But like New York State was my backyard, kind of really north. Not the New Jersey a lot of people know about, but there was a lot of hiking and land preserves and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I've heard there's a lot of parts of New Jersey that are really mountainous.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. But it was great because I had like access to the city and the shore and the mountains. Where I'm originally from.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have an older sister. She's still in New Jersey. She's a hairdresser.
Oh, sweet. What is her name?
Blair.
Blair. That's cool. Is she, you said she's a hairdresser. Mm-hmm. Is she like also into like art and music and stuff?
Not really. It's just, she's very opposite of me, if you can imagine. Very typical Northeast with the accent, and a bit shorter than me and very blonde, and likes her gym and her coffee, and like, you know, her, she always just loves her routines, and it's very New Jersey, and I love her very much.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Very New Jersey, the routines.
Yeah. God, I like, if you ever watch that show Jersey Shore, where they do like gym, laundry, tanning or something. It's like that, but she doesn't do the tanning. I think she went through that phase.
Is that already pretty typical, that kind of routine in New Jersey?
I have a good ratio, I'd say, but not everyone.
Not everyone's jacked and tan.
Yeah, no. A lot of people are also like pissed off and just, sullen. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know, a little hard ass, but it's not so bad.
Right. So, what about your parents? Are they also
They were
art and music?
they were in New Jersey, but both my parents have passed.
Oh.
So yes, but my father had coffee shops when I was growing up, and he really loved like he would like smoke a bunch of weed and like melt wax candles on like garden gargoyles and like do weird sculptural stuff like that. And my mom went to FIT for photography back in like I don't know the 70s. And yeah, so they were always creative. And when I was growing up, I like was always working and managing those coffee shops that my father had, and I would eventually grow into managing like the weekend music scene. So and my father always made sure there was like a jazz night and then like a local like alternative or Americana act playing. Yeah, but yeah, they definitely had their like fingers in creative realms.
Yeah, I love the idea of dripping wax on gargoyles.
Yeah, he was great.
Because people are, well, look at them. Where'd the wax come from?
Yeah, exactly. He was the best. Miss him very much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what were you into as a little kid?
Oh, well, when I was growing up, my mother put me into ceramics class at 2 years old. It was called Mommy and Me, and it was at this place called Wharton Dyke Gallery in I think it's like Wyckoff or Midland Park, New Jersey. Yes, and it was an old pottery studio attached to like an abandoned train that was like still next to like a working track. So like the pottery studio was the old like station building, and then the gallery was the old train.
Wow.
It was really cool. And yeah, I just remember always like using my hands and making weird stuff. And it wasn't until I was making a mess and like rolling out a bunch of clay and just covered in wet clay. And my mom's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm making a log." And then she was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And she's like, "Oh, anything is anything. I can dictate how I want others to perceive reality and get away with shit." So I thought that was like a really profound moment in my understanding of like what making something could mean towards like molding reality in a certain way. But at the time, I just was getting away with making a mess. So I didn't think about it as anything other than that until I was able to like relive that memory enough times to be like, wow, that was actually like a really profound experience. But yeah, just always put in. I stayed in ceramics until I was 14, and then got into photography, and then I was put into like advanced oil painting, and ended up in Interlaken, Maine, at the Interlaken Arts Academy for advanced painting and drawing, and that was during high school. So after that, I was kind of like, I guess I'm just gonna seek out a career in art. And my parents were like on board, but like not 100%. So out of all the schools I got into, they were only really wanted me to go to the museum school in Boston because it was a loophole to get a degree from Tufts.
Oh.
Yeah, so I took all my studio classes at the museum school, but then my academic classes at Tufts, and then you just walk away with a Tufts degree, and you don't really apply to Tufts, but you gotta get a degree. It's always kind of cool.
Wow. So, like, what first got you into art is ceramics at 2 years old.
Yeah, just like using my hands, and I still have like a bunch of those pieces I made. And after your parents die, all the things that you've given them your entire life get given back to you. So then I have like all the weird ashtrays and the weird things I made that are just like lumps of clay and stuff like that. And I have like a couple of turkey candle holders that my mother and I made, and the one that's my mom made is like really nice, and mine is just like. And it's just so cute, and I treasure those pieces. So, yeah.
Pinch pots.
Yeah, a lot of pinch pots and rolling out, and I remember they had like one of those things that can flatten out.
Oh yeah.
And so we would make like just a lot of weird mugs. Like I have a mug that's looks like a fish, like with like the fin is the handle, And then she made like a Valentine's Day looking one with hearts all over, and then the big heart as the handle. And yeah, and these aren't like big, like overly like big mugs. These are like regular size mugs like that.
Right.
Like, and that's the kind of, no frills. Like, you don't want to drink something that's going to be cold halfway through. So they were like functional.
Yeah, exactly. I like that whole idea of making it artistic, but also you can use it.
Yeah. I still have a few, but I don't use them. I put plants in them now because the plants then have their own meanings too. So it's just like drenched in metaphor.
Right. Yeah. And I love pottery. I did it in elementary school and high school. Here's a few of my little things.
I love them. Wow, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's like a Cookie Monster.
Yeah, and there's glass in there.
Yeah, melted glass in there.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, I put a little world in his mouth.
I love that.
Rode and try to make it all trippy and metaphorical and shit.
Yeah.
And this is just like a lantern.
That's beautiful. I bet it looks really cool when it's all lit up.
Yeah, it gets extremely hot, so I guess I just need to keep the top off.
Yeah, or like maybe like a jar.
Yeah, put a jar in.
Or like just off to the side.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so it can reflect through it or whatever.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Eventually I'll get a wheel and be able to do it, because I would like to have a kiln and a wheel.
Yeah. Well, you can go over to like Elephant Gallery, like Buchanan Arts and stuff. They have access to that stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, my friend Ash, her studio's over there, and after my cat Bruiser passed, I went over and made his urn. And so I think it might be ready today or tomorrow from the kiln. But yeah, so just make some friends in the ceramic world here, and then you can do whatever you want to do. It's really great. Everyone's so nice.
That sounds amazing. I'm probably going to do that.
Yeah. Or even like you can take a private class with her too, and have her like do a little teach
That's true.
situation.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Get a tutorial of using the wheel and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Buchanan Arts. They have a lot of access to that. It's a really great spot.
Buchanan Arts. Okay.
Yeah. It's over in North Nashville, behind Elephant Gallery.
Okay. I'll have to go to both of these places.
Yes.
So when you were younger, did you have like any early influences as far as artists you really liked, and you're like, wow, I really like their work, I want to be more like them?
I would say like when I was in high school, it was a lot of like de Kooning and like really gestural, figural manipulations. I really enjoyed the big gestural paint splatters and use of like the whole body and mark making of like just huge, like big works. So the movements are really big when you have to make the works. And when I was an undergrad, my drawing mentor, Bill Flynn, taught me about like scavenging or foraging for wood for charcoal. And so I have these like really old and long branches that all burned down. And I remember I was really inspired by him once because he was doing a lecture and it was real quiet and he was talking, and out of nowhere he just like slams this burnt log on the big paper behind him and drags it down. And it was just like such like a like visceral,
yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, yes. And then I ended up taking all his classes and being his TA, and like we did an art trade and I have one of his pieces now. And he retired in my like senior thesis year. I was so bummed out, but he's still alive now, doing great. But that was a huge inspiration because he would I would always take his figure classes, but he was a hard ass. Like he would go up to first year students and he didn't like the way they were showing their respect for the pose that the model was doing. And they'd be like, why are you here? Why did you come to art school? Because they would just be like looking at the paper, not looking at the model, just going outlining and not seeing like the shapes of the shadows and the muscles and actually like doing those lines within the body. And he had this model and she was like a retired ballerina. She was really much older, like maybe in her 80s. And so she had still had muscle definition, but her skin just sagged off. and it was gorgeous. And she would get into these crazy positions, and then if he didn't like how we were drawing it, he would make us get into that position and understand like what it took, like the muscles, and then like you really understand like, oh, all the weight is on that leg, and the muscles look like, you need to understand the skeletal and the muscle system to really like show that respect for the figure and the body. But then once you understand those placements, you can just get it like just really quickly. And that's what he was like trying to get us to understand. It's like the muscle memory of like all our bodies are like the same in a certain ratio. And so when we have all our weight in a certain way, it's like that's the weight line and how strong that line is. And then understanding how your mark making can dictate like the feeling of a pose, like a sensual pose, a hard pose, or like a soft, like delicate sleeping, like all different ways and how you can use your mark making to initiate those feelings. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent now. I'm sorry.
When you say mark making, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like
mark making as in like using your charcoal or pens or whatever in ways that create different marks that elude different textures and spatial play. Like if you were to do like a spray paint or an airbrush line and then do like a hard line over it, that spray paint airbrush line is going to be perceived further back in space because it's so soft and drifting out. But then a hard line is defined, it's in front, it's in focus. And just understanding how the brain uses the eye to solve the puzzle of perception is like the first thing to understand, like how mark making puts it all together, because you're trying to create depth on a flat surface.
Understanding optics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and anatomy of the body.
Yeah, and then over time that I was like TAing a lot, and I was working with the figure in such a way that I was using objective figural reference to talk about more subjective feelings. Like I'll make a figure with like a big asshole and like 4 legs curling in on itself with like no head, and it's just how you felt rather than how you looked and the body that you felt like you were occupying. But after like doing so many, like having access to the studio after hours, like in for TAing with printmaking and drawing. I remember pulling a monoprint one day because I was bored, and I stared at it for 2 weeks because it like had this vibration happening that made me see a space, but there obviously wasn't a space. It was very simple, like blocked monoprint, and I was like, I need to do like 100 of these to like see like, is this real, or is this just like a fluke for this one like composition? And so I did, and there was something happening, and I realized that I didn't need to use the objective figural reference to talk about like perspective in that way of the self, because the self is the viewer, as the figure, I mean. So then it became like just perception as like the figural input, and then understanding space as the figure. So then they got a bit more abstract, and I was trying to figure out why is my brain thinking it sees depth and space in something that is flat and it's just made up of like random mark making kind of stuff. So I did a lot of research, and I found this German psychological theory called gestaltism.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the sum of the whole is other than the parts. That's like basically the quote, and it's such like a broad reaching concept, but I focus on like the visual aspect of it. And so when you look at anything, each item has its own identity, but when it all comes together, it's something else. Like it's the whole picture of what you're seeing. So when you look at something like objectively, you're like, the oranges have their own identity, the bananas have their own, like all those things there, but then that is what encompasses the countertop. That is the countertop. But everything is its own identity too. And so when you're looking at like a more abstract thing, your brain is trying to be like, what am I looking at? What is this puzzle I'm trying to solve? So it uses the mark making to be like, okay, that looks like that, so it must be further back. And then it figures out like with these very obscure pieces of the puzzle, how a space can be created. And so, yeah, each mark making, each thing can allude to a different sense of space. And I think that really got me for a while, and it still gets me to this day. I still work heavily in it, but I think I'm just getting more specific in a certain way. But yeah, it was after pulling that mono print, I kind of just delved into the deep end of like perception and depth and brain science, because a lot of this stuff that I've read is like written by people that are still alive today, or like within the last 20 years or something like that. It's all very new. So it's quite interesting because no one's really talking about like the electrons and how the electrons in your brain form these pathways, and that is how you see something on the horizon line, and it could have all these different identities before you actually see it. Like, is that a body? Is that a dog? Is that a trash can going? Oh, it's a plastic bag. But all the things that your brain thought it was before you actually saw what it was are from previous experiences, because it's trying to figure out, what is it? How can I solve it? Like, it's a survival mechanism, and it's just so interesting, and I'm so drawn to that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, like in middle school and high school, like, I'm guessing you did art in school and like outside of school?
Yeah, I took a lot of all the art classes I could, and then always did like after school something. Like there was an art academy in Ridgewood, New Jersey. I forgot what it's called, but that's where I like did some traditional. That's where I was traditionally trained with oil painting, and I was just like, nah, like that's cool, and I loved it. It's beautiful, but I just needed something like that got my brain busy a little bit more. So I kind of dabbled with a lot of different things during that time, and it was my high school art teacher, Bill Kustra, who like kind of took me under his wing in a way, and like I took all his classes, and he pushed me like go to art school and get my portfolio. He taught me how to take slides of my works before even digital cameras were a thing. Like yeah, so I was always known as like an artsy person, but I was a hard ass too, because I was like, I'm not calling myself an artist, because who am I to say I'm an artist? So I was just like such a fucking, I don't know, hard-headed. You know, when you're a teen in early 20s, you're really angsty. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm against the man.
Yeah, exactly.
So why would you say you're drawn to physical and like visual art?
Well, yeah, so I'll tell a little story if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you know when you're in like your very early formative years, like kindergarten and all those very early times where the teacher then tells your parents like what they've noticed about your early development and stuff like that. And my whole shtick was I would never explain anything in show and tell. I would bring something in and gesture towards it and be like, why do I need to explain how cool this is? You can see it. And yeah, there was like this unspoken thing that I had, where my parents didn't even tell me about it until like high school, that I was really bad at like comprehending or like sharing things that I thought, like, to me they thought it was like I was unable to, but it was like more, why do I need to? Like, you have eyes and you can see and you can feel it and you can play with this thing and you can see how cool it is. So it was like there was this lack of communication that I had, and I felt like my parents always pushing me to make art and stuff was like this way to bridge that gap, so I could like kind of figure out what was happening in here and everything once I get it out there, kind of like vomit or shit or something like that. Like it's gonna come out either way. But yeah, I think it was honestly because of like a learning development issue.
Like, why do I need to explain this?
Yeah,
it's already glorious as it is.
Exactly. And then who am I to define this
Right. Box it in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like at such a young age, I thought
No,
like
no
that.
boundaries.
Exactly. And I remember, gosh, I don't know if this is allowed on the podcast, but I remember my college boyfriend, we took a bunch of mushrooms one day and we were just gonna like draw and make some art. And when we were like, let's get some paper on the wall. And he just put like a sheet of paper on the wall. And I was like, no. And I put a roll of paper and I rolled it down and rolled it out. And I was like, we're drawing everything. And because I didn't understand like drawing, just no, it's the expanse of it. And yeah, little story.
Amazing. Yeah. I like that story you said with Bill Flynn, wherever slamming the piece of wood, burnt wood.
Yeah.
It became a performance as well as
exactly.
a piece of art that was being made.
Yeah, he was such an inspirational professor. I felt very lucky to have had him as like a professor and also like a colleague, boss, because I was his assistant for a few classes, and it was great.
That's awesome. So, how do you have routines, or how do you develop your artistic skills?
I would say I have routines where I'm in the studio and I'm trying out different materials or processes that I'm not fully ready to like make a piece all about. A few years ago, I worked for a carpenter, and I come from a family of builders, so I always kind of understood the fundamentals of that, but I wanted to understand like to make something actually functional, like legally functional too. So I worked for a carpenter for a summer. We built like sheds and decks and fences and like this big pergola thing with a roof and all this stuff. And doing that, we had to like pour concrete and like use tools that at the time I wasn't like 100% like confident in myself working with them. And because I kind of got like a hold my hand through the process of it and how to make something like functional and traditional and make it work. I got the understanding of the basics, and then I was able to like have a bit more confidence in doing it on my own and working with these new materials in my practice. And I think it was just from asking for help, asking to be taught, and putting myself in a situation where I would be taught how to do it because I'm working for someone who does it, kind of stuff. And or I'll just be in the studio and just experiment too. Why not? Go to Turnip Green, see whatever they have cooking, and then work with something new I haven't thought of before.
Yeah, you have mentors.
Wait, do I have mentors?
No, I'm just saying like different people you studied under.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They I think of a lot of folks as mentors. I've gone down a lot of different pathways of artistic experience via like mentors and choices and yada yada yada. And I think we all need to do that to like figure out like what process or skill we really want to dive into the deep end with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like sculpture, painting is my bread and butter.
Nice. So, do you have like favorite artists of all time?
Of all time, yeah, I do. Martin Puryear, he is amazing. Does a lot of these like seed looking shape pieces, and he can make this like the wood look like ebony. It's so beautiful. And there's this piece he did that it's pretty well known for. I think it's on permanent display at MoMA in New York, but it's like this long piece of wood that he split in half and just went like this with and put bunch of stairway, like a ladder, like little rungs in it, and just because of the perspective, it's like looks like a stairway forever, like a ladder forever in space, but it's just how your perspective is when you're standing underneath it. He's really known for that work, and I'm pretty sure he was in like represented America in like a Venice Biennial or some shit like that. I don't know him. Barbara Hepworth. She is an amazing sculptor with wood and stone and uses the figure in this like beautifully gestural and delicate way. Like just beautiful curves, and like her use of like holes and voids within her pieces. Something I'm drawn to a lot. Richard Serra, because of his like he like grew up in like the shipbuilding area in like New York and Brooklyn or some shit. And so all that steel really inspired his work, and you can see that now, which I really love, being able to draw like childhood experience to like what they do now. Um, hmm. Noguchi, a Japanese American um, sculptor, and he has his own museum in Queens. His use of like stone and wood, and then how he deals with the pedestal is really cool, because there was a whole time in art where like the pedestal was like, is this part of the piece or is the pedestal part of the gallery? If it's a necessary thing for showing the work, then shouldn't it be thought of as well? And so it's like the theory of like the Guggenheim. Like the Guggenheim is an architectural masterpiece in and of itself, but how can that then hold art that needs to hold its own too? Like, and you can't see the art without seeing it in relation to the architectural masterpiece that is the museum. So it's like this dichotomy of like art within art, but they have nothing to do with each other. I forgot what I was saying.
No worries. His favorite artist.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So Noguchi used like the pedestal within his pieces as like part of the piece in and of itself. And I really thought like with what was happening at the time, it was beautiful. I love his work. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. How did you start working at the Red Narrow Gallery?
Working with them?
Working with them.
Yeah. Well, when I first moved to town in, like winter, like December of 2014, damn, a long time ago. I moved down, and only a couple friends in town. Of course, they were musicians, because like at that time the art scene here was rather small, but like super supportive and amazing. And someone that my friend was playing with one night, their partner was the owner of Red Arrow when it was over at Riverside Village next to Fond Object.
Oh yeah.
And I remember going to a couple shows there, and yeah, Katie and I really hit it off and just talked a lot about art, and became really good friends. And yeah, then I just started showing with them, and I think our relationship just has like developed further and further, where like I still show with them every couple years, and yeah, they're like my family to me. It's really cool. Because they've known me for so long that I feel like they really understand my work and my practice and my concepts, and like the soul passion stuff when it comes to making work, and not just about like making money. It's like
Right.
what I'm passionate about with like the messages I'm trying to say with the pieces. Yeah, and so it was just like doing the hang, and I don't even know if that's a possible thing anymore in Nashville, but I remember, you just hung around, and then your face gets more recognizable, and then you strike up conversations, and then people get to know you, and yeah, it takes time, but I feel like it was really, really great friendship I made super early on, and very lucky to have done so.
Yeah. When you said work with them, what does that look like, or what do you do?
Oh, they represent me with the state, with regionally. So I show with them, and then they store my larger pieces and have not curators, collectors come and check out my work, and they put it in front of the eyes of people who have the space to buy work, because a lot of the pieces are big, and so the walls need to be big for them to go on, and so they have like the connections to like get the people who have those walls to see the work. And just they like definitely give a lot of opportunity and provide like such a community setting for like all the other artists that they represent, and we all just are good friends, so it's kind of I don't know, really supportive in that way, and feel lucky.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how did your sculpture called Crevice come about?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So that was for Artville, and that was like the whole inaugural first art fest that Nashville put on. And I think they got it funded for 3 years, which is really cool. I hope it happens. It keeps happening. But crevice was my idea for a large sculpture that would be an outdoor sculpture for that event. And it was, or still is, it's in my driveway now, but it's big white, like it's about 6 feet tall and 9 feet long and 4 feet wide. And it's called crevice because when like there's a fissure or an earthquake and what is known shifts, it's what's lost. The crevice is a piece of earth that falls into that fissure, into that crack. And with that neighborhood, experienced a lot of change and a lot of loss of like actual accessible studio space because it's supposed to be one of the creative hubs of Nashville, but there's no accessibility really left over there. And so it was funny of like, what are they trying to show with this art fest has been lost. So I decided to make a crevice. And so it was like a piece of earth removed and then put on a pedestal, which it really wasn't put on a pedestal. It was on the ground with like an island like of sand, surrounded by like a sea of sand around it, just so it like had some differentiation between grass and sculpture. But yeah, it was meant to be like something lost from that neighborhood that we're trying to, reenact or look at and not forget about as forces with a lot more money than us artists come in and try to deem like that theirs. Like, it's it's getting lost. So I wanted to kind of do a little bit of like, I don't know, I was all like, man, fuck you guys too. Yeah, but because it was white and neon, I was thinking maybe I should have named it crevasse because a crevasse is the ice
Ooh.
and a crevice is the earth. It's like when an ice sheet, like when if you're in like on a glacier there's like a big split in the ice and you can get like lost if you fall down there. But yeah, that's a crevasse and then a crevice. So it was just like funny little play on words. I like the play on word stuff.
Yeah. So like your negative space initial steps into gestaltism, that came about from like the mind, like being able to make your mind scramble to figure out meaning within kind of random objects.
Yeah, like that monoprint I pulled when I was just like hanging out in the print shop after working with the figure for so long. That is the print that kind of like started it all. And it's called Feeling Aloof Next to Sarah, because it's when I was like super obsessed with Richard Serra and it just reminded me of his work. And I just thought it was a nice play on word. Because I was like feeling aloof next to Sarah, feeling distant, feeling like I'm trying to figure something out next to his work or something, or like understand who I am adjacent to these gigantic steel pieces. So I don't know. That's why that title became to be.
Yeah, I really like on your website, on that page, the second one down on the left. It's got the like big gap, looks like a canyon, and it's one of your gestaltism ones, but I like that one a lot because you can see the depth, like that there's a hole there, or it looks like a hole.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I wish I knew exactly which one you were talking about.
No
but
worries.
Thank you.
I should have had a picture.
Oh, it's okay.
But what would you say like your overall art represents?
I feel like it just perception, like using experience using experience to understand perception or like figure out what it means to be human in this present day with what I have experienced and not feeling so alone in those experiences because we all like kind of put ourselves in a corner when it comes to experiencing stuff either like And unfortunately, like I've had some like pretty shitty experiences with just like loss and stuff, and grappling with grief has been like a big part of my practice as of lately. So because of that, I know that like it's a part of being alive is death, and everyone is going to experience loss in their life. So being able to make work that helps me figure out what I'm thinking about as I work my way through that also builds connection with other people who don't understand how to navigate through loss. Because I felt like when I was younger and my father passed, I used it as like fuel to like keep going and work harder and get my degree and like push myself and do something because I need to tell his story. But then after my mom died, it was kind of like, I don't want to do anything. I wanted to like give up. But it was less about using it as fuel and more about like, why me? And I have to do like this 180 of like, no, it's fuel. Like this, you have to be able to see a silver lining in whatever happens, and just be thankful that like you're able to look at it that way and not continue just spiraling downward, and try to use it as a bridge to connect with other people. And I think once you lose like the people that made you in a way, you lose like this safety net of connection. So when you make work that is trying to like connect with people who are also seeking that understanding and navigation, it builds those bridges in a really profound way, just because it makes people not feel alone in that, because it's so easy to just be alone when you're experiencing all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say, kind of on the same line here, what would you say inspires your creativity?
I would say, well, I guess it depends on if I'm working on like a stretched canvas piece or a sculptural piece, where the canvas pieces are usually me problem solving in a visual format that is very much based on like composition, where then sculptural, it's problem solving in a way of understanding process and material. So I'll create works on stretched canvas that create a conversation with myself, or I'm like, do a little mark here and then look at it, and then do a little mark there and look at it, and see what dialogues come up between that composition, and then think about like, what am I thinking about right now? Like, how does this have to do with what I'm actually experiencing with life? But then with the sculptures, I draw it out in a sketchbook, and I know exactly like, I want to make this shape. I want to make something with this material or this texture. And then it's the problem solving of, okay, how do I make this happen? And a lot of that has to do with like metaphorical shape associations with like, with when it comes to sculpture, like curves against straights versus like voids, and then the use of material. Like I use a lot of natural material. I grow the grasses that I'll put in my sculpture, and I taught myself how to do basket weaving like 7 years ago because of all of my farming and gardening that I do, because it's like a functional skill. And then I was like, why am I not using these skills that I taught myself for like function in my practice? So I feel like more lately for sculptures, it's figuring out how I can use these functional skills in the fine art. Sculpture and fine art is defined by non-function. Like fine art can't have a function. What is the function of fine art? You can't drink out of it. You can't eat food with it. And a lot of that. So I like to figure out like using what's the metaphor of using materials that are historically used for function in a non-functional way, and then what other metaphor does that mean as a female doing it? When I go to Home Depot, the amount of weird looks I get from the people who work there when I ask for information about one concrete versus another, and then they're like, well, what are you doing? And then tell them, and then it's just, oh, we don't sell that, or we don't work with that. It's like, no, you don't respect or know what I'm talking about, or you don't have like. So it's funny. I kind of feel like Ron Swanson when I go into Home Depot, because I'm just like, I know more than you. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me, because they just that's not helpful. There's people there sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know what got me on this tangent. I'm sorry. This happens a lot. I'll just.
I was just saying what inspires your creativity.
Oh yeah. So just the materials, playing with materials, and then with the sculpture, and then also how I just creating something and then figuring out like why do I think I see what I see, and all that comes with like understanding what I'm going to see with it, but that doesn't mean that's what it is.
Right.
So I think it's a lot like if you think about Rorschach tests, I'm going to see one thing, but who am I to say then that is the definition of what it is? Because it's out there. I made a physical thing and it is now in the world. My perception of it is not going to then bleed into your perception of it. You're going to see it as a whole different thing. And how wonderful that is. Like, yeah, why would I ever want to box that in? And I think that's a big inspiration to me too.
Yeah. Making something and then letting someone else interpret it.
Yeah.
And being free of the interpretation.
Because that's where the bridges are built. Because I want to hear someone else and what they have to say. And then they all hear what I have to say. And then it's like, whoa, there's like a connection there. And I think there's, I can go off on a whole venting about like how museums like give out headphones and then they have someone in your ear telling you exactly how you need to look at a painting or a work because of the context. And it's like, well, what about how you view it because of who you are existing in this present world with your perception and your experience? Get that first and then read it, because like you shouldn't be like tunnel vision into how you should perceive something, especially in art, because that is like such a broad thing that's just human, and being human is so much more than just one definition.
Right. Kind of bastardize it when you explain everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool. How would you best describe the type of artist you are?
I don't even know how to describe any artist. Gosh, a little manic, a little, manic maybe. I like to gain a lot of skills and then figure out how to use that in my practice. So a collector of skills, but also sometimes I don't feel like whatever control I have is completely on me. I feel like sometimes stuff just needs to come out and I don't have control over it. And sometimes those things that need to come out aren't even meant for me. They're meant for me to put out there and for other people to see, because there's so many other things happening in the world, and not my own perception of the world is like, that's not the be all end all. So I think sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just God, vessel is such a freaking ethereal word, but like I don't want to say I'm a vessel. But I feel like the conduit or the tool, like I'm just the thing that the messenger. Don't shoot me. Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
The envoy.
Yeah, maybe something like that. But not to like. I don't want to like put myself on like in no way not to put myself on a pedestal or anything. But yeah, just to make something and put it out there, because like it just needs to be put out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll be seen, sometimes it won't be seen, but the fact that this thing had to be put out there, and I had felt this need that didn't feel like I had a choice in the matter.
Yeah. And all that you do maybe makes you a multi-disciplinary artist.
Oh, 100%. Like I have a garden right outside my studio, and I grow stuff that goes then back into the studio, or then the wood shavings then go right back into the garden.
Recycle.
Yeah, I've tried to be really sustainable. I many years ago, I made a bunch of black walnut ink that I still use to this day.
Wow.
Because I made so much that, and it doesn't go bad, but it gets a film on top, and I found that over time the brown that it is gets more cool, like cooler toned as it ages, which I like that a lot. So yeah, and I have this book on natural botanical dyeing, and I took a class with the Tennessee Weavers Guild, which were these ladies like their 80s and 90s, and it was really adorable. And we just dyed with botanicals, and they taught, and we learned how to like use like iron and then eucalyptus leaves, and then bathe it in like a bath with like pennies and like all different like mortants, which are like what you put in the boiling water to then elicit darker tannins from the botanicals. It's just so cool and so interesting. And then how like you can then use those things in your practice. Like it's just so cool because all those things were made in a functional way for like indigenous peoples and like for their own survival or lifestyle. And then how we've forgotten it and how we can bring back these functional necessary skills and then like use them as like skill sharing and then use it in your practice. And just how much more beautiful that is than just like buying pigment or buying paper. I don't know.
Like buying acrylic or whatever.
Yeah.
When you can make your own paint.
Yeah, or just try, or let's get some dirt and rub it on. Like
yeah.
Just there's so much more potential and metaphor when you figure out how to do something from the ground up.
Yeah.
Rather than just use money to just get this and get this.
Right.
I don't know. I like the 360 degree. I want to be part of all of it.
Right. It's like taking a piece of paper and burying it in dirt or scrubbing coffee grounds all over it, make it look old, antique.
Yeah. Just put something else in there that can like have something to say that you're not in fully control of. And that's a big part of my process too. Like my paintings, I'll spray paint the back. I'll stretch the canvas and then I spray paint the back of the painting. So there's a bleed through that happens that I can't control. And then once I turn it over, I'll use my big branches that I burn for charcoal to then make more marks. And because of the distance and the imperfections in the wood burning, like little pieces will fall off and catch in other ways, and iridescency will come out, little browns. And it's just, there's a lack of control I have in those first marks that then create the problem. That's then me solving. Then everything else is me solving that problem. But yeah, because I don't want to, it's so intimidating to look at a fresh canvas to me because the whole thing is like I started with moleskin sketchbooks and I was like, I'm just spend like $50 on this goddamn sketchbook. I don't want to ruin it. And so I like go in the middle and just like scribble all over and then use that bleed through to initiate the next drawing, use the bleed through, and then it just kept going. And that's how the sketchbooks would get filled up. And then I realized like, that's how I feel most comfortable making work or starting a piece. So how can I do this with my paintings? And then I was like, spray paint, bleed through.
Yeah.
And from there, it's just problem solving. Whatever shit just happened, and I have to then figure out how do I perceive a space from these marks that I could not really control. So that's really fun to me.
I really like the whole idea of buying moleskin journals, and then you're like, they're too nice. I need to fuck them up.
Completely.
So then I won't feel bad about doing whatever I want.
Exactly. And if you get the ones that are like super thin paper, you can get these really nice bleed throughs with the oil-based Sharpies. And those, like, I remember during one of my shows, I think it was one of my first shows at Red Arrow, I had like a table up on the second floor with like my like two or 3 years worth of sketchbooks, and I like changed them to the table. And I had a thing that said, "Don't take any photos of these because these are sketchbooks. Like, there's things written in there, and like, I don't care if like someone reads them, but like, I would rather no one like to document that shit." But it was just to like show like how like not provocative, but just like how much I was doing and how that process was so embedded in my practice. And then I figured out how can I do this large scale. Wow. And so that's how it turned out with the paintings. But moleskins are way too nice. You have to mess them up a little bit.
Yeah, blemish them some.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. What would you say, what would you say are your strengths and weaknesses as an artist?
Oh gosh, a funny Michael Scott from The Office joke came to my head, and I won't say it, but I don't know what that shows. So I
Go ahead and say it.
What, I should?
Yeah.
That I work too hard. I don't know, something like that. Never mind. I don't want. Scotch that. I think my biggest strength is that I can adapt really well to different materials and circumstances, and I have a willingness and patience that makes it so skills that take a little bit of time to learn, like I want to learn them, or more process oriented, like that doesn't scare me. When it comes to my practice, I don't mind taking time. And then, because in all other aspects of my life, like I talk fast, I move fast. Like I don't drive fast because that's scary. But like just like I always like when I was a kid, it was like, Lindsay, you cannot be the first one to put your math test in because that's what so fast. So I think in my practice, I'm like gentle with myself and I let myself slow down, and I think that is more of a strength than what I could have thought as a child, which could be a weakness, because you always think you have to do so much all the time, or maybe it's because I come from like a workaholic father who like he wasn't around Christmas morning because he was at work. He wasn't around this holiday because he was open up the coffee shop. The hours are the hours, and so I think because of being raised like that, and then being able to turn that on at some point, and then also be able to slow down and enjoy the process and take my time as a strength. And I think a weakness is sometimes I do move too fast. And I think that I'll know a material before I fully know it. And then like when I was first teaching myself how to like paper mache with concrete, when I was first, because I had to teach myself how to like work with concrete in like a more paper mache way, there was a big learning curve where every time I came back in the studio, there was a crack or there was something. And I'm just like, why does this keep happening? And because I had this like a fickle confidence when I first started using it, being like, I know this material, it's going to be fine. And then I kept being like a slap in the face, like, no, we're going to crack and you're going to still have to figure it out more. And so I think that is my weakness. But because materials don't let you get away with it, it doesn't fully bleed through. It's usually just the beginning. But also, I think maybe another weakness is I have like ADHD, and my attention span is crazy bad a lot of the time. And so I'm like working on like 10 pieces at once sometimes, and maybe I'm not noticing, and I'm going like wild on one piece, and then I got splatter on a piece, and I just get up. Like it's just I think because of I have to always be making so much work. Sometimes I'll tunnel vision on something, and then something else gets messed up. Or like right now, I have a piece in my studio that's already sold and it's ready for where it's going to go. But I had to put like a layer of, because it's going to be outside, I wanted to put like an extra layer of like outdoor polyurethane to coat it so it was extra safe. And I'm just waiting for the collector to say that when they're ready for install. And so I can't work in half of my studio because it's just right there. And what if I get something on it and I have to redo everything? And it's just,
because you can't move it.
I can't. I can't. That's the first. I can't lift that sculpture by myself. It's very large. And so it's kind of just I'm stuck waiting. So it's funny. So like that's over there, and I know if I'm gonna work anywhere near it, I have to be like super aware of my body.
Maybe put like a sheet over it or something.
Yes, that's helpful too. But it's on because I needed to seal it in a way where I got a little bit underneath it. So it's on a stool. So it's not on like something, like if I hit it by accident with an elbow or my hip, like I think it's going to take like a good hit for it to fall. But like, I just don't trust myself if I get into like the headspace of just making big gestures to make the work, and then I'm just like, oh shit, and it falls. Like, wouldn't be the first time. So I'm just not going to go over there in part of the studio. And yeah, so I think that's it right now. That's a huge weakness because like I can't work in half of my studio. It sucks. Yeah. So I'm working in the sculpture side, and I'm working on this ramen noodle sculpture.
Oh wow!
for this group show at Julie Martin Gallery at the end of February, called Slow Noodles.
Wow!
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I've never worked with ramen as a material before, but I had this idea about working with a material that had the potential to like change over time. And since this show is called Slow Noodles and is based off of this woman's memoir, Cambodian refugee, and like all her struggles and perseverance and resilience, and just through food, like also through food and community and sharing. And so I just thought like slow noodles, and then making like a ramen noodle sculpture would be a great metaphor, because it'll, over the course of the opening reception, there's going to be a hot plate with boiling water inside the sculpture that you can't see it, but steam is going to be coming up through it. So throughout the course of the reception, it'll cook, and then the sculpture is going to change over time. And I just felt like that is a great kind of like sort of like Sisyphusian in the way, where it's like you build this whole thing up and it just crumbles back down. But when it crumbles back down, it's edible, like, and you can nourishment, even though like ramen noodles, like the packets are not healthy at all, so it's not really nutritious. But this the idea of just like providing, but then yeah,
it's flower blooming.
But then it's really going down. It's just going to collapse in on itself. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward and a little nervous to see how that works out. Yeah, maybe that could be a strength and a weakness, where I think of, I'm an idea guy. Like I always say that when like I'm thinking of an idea or something, where I love thinking of like cool, crazy concepts, but then like, how do you make it happen? And then just trying to figure it out. And so that could be a strength, but then also a weakness, because like to figure it out in the way it should be figured out might take longer than the time you're allotted to figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, like, so it would be really cool to do like a whole conceptual like series on making work out of like materials that shift over time, like exposed to steam
wax,
or something,
or ice.
Exactly, all of that. But I don't have the time. This is a group show, and this work isn't even like, is this a work? It's more of like a process experiment, because I'm friends with Julia, so she of course will let me mess around and see this play, because it's going to be a really cool like performance-esque sculptural piece. So that could be another strength weakness.
Awesome. Okay, so do you have like a favorite medium?
No.
What would you say your top 3 are?
Okay, yeah, that's better. Wood, well, a plant-based material, and I think that can encompass grass and wood.
I guess I might have asked the wrong question. I guess out of sculptures, painting, installations, everything that you do artistically, what would you say your top 3, whatever subgenres, I guess you'd say? Or...
I like sculpture a lot, more because it's such a material process that I don't have to, my eyes don't get as tired with it. Like, one of my eyes is stronger than the other, so like I have a lazy eye, one could say. And if I'm staring at a piece for too long, I'll get like a migraine, and it's terrible. And usually the paintings require that staring at it for you to really be able to like figure out how you can create a space on like this surface that has uncontrolled mark making all over it. And so there's a lot of back and forth play of looking and then putting a mark and then stopping and then looking again, and then having to force yourself to like not look at it, so you get fresh eyes. And that process, like I just grew up doing it, and it's like muscle memory at this point, but it like it's boring a little bit, where sculpture and materials and figuring out how to do something is so much more interesting to me. Like one of my sculptures in my last solo at Red Arrow was called Big Bag, and trying to figure out how to get the caning wood to wrap around the top handle in what would appear to be an infinity wrap was really hard. And then also figuring out how to paint it without getting paint on the other part of it, because there was such a difference between the enamel finish of the sculpture and then the wood caning part was just matte. And so trying to just make sure everything just wasn't sloppily done, because when you're then caning the wood, it's like you're weaving it. So all the parts that are over another piece, there's no paint under there. So if something gets a little shifty, then you can see that. You can see the wood. So you need to like be so particular and just then just all the figuring out and problem solving, and also your hands get so dirty and like you can't touch anything. You have to just like be 100% in it for like 20 minutes of like you're working with this like a concrete or a plaster or something that like there's a time limit on how much you can work with it before it gets unworkable. So within that window, you just have to be present and 100%. And then after that, you could take a break, whatever, wash your hands, check your phone, whatever, smoke some weed, whatever you want. But that the attention that it requires, especially for my ADHDness, is really like it's great. It's really helpful because it's like blocking everything out. And so yeah, I feel like the sculptures require more of my like physical attention, where the 2D works, the wall works, paintings, whatever, require so much more like visual work that it hurt. Like I think it's just a pain thing. I think it just hurts my eyes a lot, and like my hands, like my thumb comes out of its sockets and whatnot. So it's not like everything else doesn't hurt, but I feel just like I get more mental stimulation from the sculpture process.
Yeah. Yeah. Dealing with it in your hands.
Yeah.
How to put it together. And,
yeah. Just the patience, you have to zen yourself basically.
Yeah.
And I think because I don't meditate in that traditional way of just like sitting there and focusing on breathing, my meditation is to like do things that test my patience. And I think I like I really like to do that. I really like testing myself in that way. There was a couple sculptures. Actually, no, there's a big one at my last solo. It was called Anapanasati, which is Sanskrit for mindful breathing, which is a little like little jab at one of my closest friends, BJ, because he was trying to get me to do that Hoffman breathing practice, which like I think it works. It's great, but at the time I was just like, so now I have to schedule my breathing. Are you fucking kidding me? Another thing. And I just thought it was so funny. So I was like, I don't think that's how it works for me. I think my meditation practices are in like just being the mindful in my actions and just like doing something that's annoying and frustrating and just being able to just keep going and stay stoic kind of throughout the whole process. And so there was part of basket weaving, especially with like chair caning wood, is the wood has to be soaking for like 24 hours before you can mess with it, because you need to be able to bend it.
Right.
And so the whole time I was like weaving, I think it ended up being 12 unfunctional baskets, but they were connected. Like, so there was like one thing here and then two baskets going down, like it looks like rib cage. And each of those had to be suspended above me so the gravity would help pull it down. And so the whole time I'm doing that, my arms are up, and so my arms are like a little shaky. But the water from the wood, and it's gross water because it's just stagnant sitting there with wood soaking in it. It gets like a film on it. it's dripping on you and it's getting in your eyes and your mouth and it's disgusting. But like you just persevere and you keep doing it and you have to trust the process. And I really enjoy kind of that like self-deprecation of that in a way. Where it's just
like sacrifice.
Yeah, and I kind of like that because I like that kind of labor. Like I did farm work for a really long time. I like that repetitive, trust the process, like big picture kind of work because I think that's the stuff that requires so much more presence than anything else. And the only way you can see it in its final scene is by putting in that work. And how rewarding that is to actually like put in so much work and then like you have this beautiful thing to show for it, and how much more rewarding that is than a like the big gestural drawing, you know. Like I love that has its place, but I'm so much more interested in the sculptural stuff now.
Yeah, moving around.
Yeah,
sitting one place doing the same thing.
Yeah, and just figure like, and also like a lot of my paintings even now, I was trying to figure out how I can incorporate like more slowing down in my painting. So that's why I started like stuffing and sewing into my paintings. My grandmother, her family, when they came over, they were tailors. And so she like had a big sewing machine and like a lot of sewing was always going on. So I like know how to sew. So I would sew these big, weird like patches onto the paintings and then stuff them with either stuffing or whatever I could find. Like I found a lot of fake fruit at Turnip Green and I stuffed one of them with fake fruit. So I had all these weird like things coming, like textures like in this thing that you don't know what these things are. You just see like how it's hitting the fabric and the glare and how it's the shadows are working with it. But it was this whole other idea of like creating intrigue or mark making, but using a more visceral approach to through the 2D by sewing into it. Because like when the painting's really big, like you have to put the needle there and then go behind the painting, pull it out, go behind, and it's like it's a funny, slow process. And I think over the course of the last couple of years, I've been doing that a lot more often, and I think that's like how I've been trying to fall back in love with painting,
right?
By slowing myself down.
Some of the physical elements or whatever.
Yeah.
So you've been in Nashville since 2014.
Yeah.
What initially brought you here?
Well, I was up in Beacon, New York, farming on Common Ground Farm, and at the time, it was like a really great opportunity where I got to live for free there and then work down the street. And the Dia Beacon was right around the corner. It's the largest collection of contemporary art in North America. Beautiful place. I was like looking, after the season was up, I was looking for an apartment and some stay, but then I had a couple of friends living down here and they're like, wait, well, Lindsay, why don't you try Nashville? It's really cool. I'm like, that's it. It's really cool. And I like looked online and I found Plateau Print Shop. And that's a small nonprofit print shop. At the time, they were on 4th Ave. And so when I came down to visit Nashville and my friends here, and I interviewed with them, I spent some time in like Johannesburg with paper making and printmaking, and I come from a family of builders. My grandfather had like a tool shop that my uncles ran, and so I kind of like had all the things where I could teach paper making and I could build a shop. And so they hired me, and a month later I moved down and I helped build a little paper mill attached to their print shop. In the back, it was I don't know if you remember when Fond Object decided to open a second location, and it was on 4th Ave. It was the same building, but just on the left, where Fond Object was on the right, and that's where one of the original Turnip Greens was too. And that's why I got like really close and like with the Turnip Green folks and like their mission. But anyway, my paper mill was in the back, and I had a little patio that like houseless people would sleep under and then use as a bathroom. So it wasn't always great. But I remember watching like the Music City Center being built as I would like pulling abaca sheets, and it was really cool. I did some classes with like kids and like locals who wanted to learn the process. And then they moved spaces because at the time, it's kind of like you just do a leapfrog from one spot to another until like the rent or the building gets sold. And the building that they moved into, I built another one. And while I was at a residency in Nebraska, the president of the print shop passed away. Not suddenly, but to me, it was kind of sudden. She had cancer, and I didn't realize how bad it was progressing. But the board changed, and they had to make it financially sustainable. So they fired. They would just ask me, they had to let me go, which I understood. No hard feelings, so whatever. So that's what brought me down to Nashville, and I eventually started working at a different print shop, and I became like head printer there for it was like a t-shirt poster printmaking shop, all water based, so it's like more eco-friendly. And I was also like the only female on the automated press, and we all were like pitted against each other, and we're given our stats every month to be like who's the best one. And because my dad was a workaholic, I always had to push myself, and so I like always like, no, I'm gonna prove myself. And yeah, and I just decided when COVID hit, I'm like, yeah, I need to do that for myself. Like, I don't want to sacrifice myself for other people anymore. But yeah, that's what brought me down to Nashville. Print jobs, paper making, all that stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What is something you would say you've learned living here?
I don't think it's okay. So you know how like people are like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think it's not who you know, but who knows you and why. I think that's way more important. Because this is such a small town and we all are so supportive of one another that if you're not lifting other people up with you, like what's the point? So it's like I would rather be known as someone who like and that's part of the community, and someone who's like well known in like New York or LA or whatever for my art. Like that's what being an artist in this town has taught me. The community, the supportiveness of the community is so much more important than your own stats as an artist in the art world.
Right.
Yeah.
Being known amongst the community members instead of just being like world renowned for your art, being so detached from the community.
Yeah. And even just like you can look at like being a part of the community as like you're on a pedestal above them, or you can be down and be like, let's learn together. Let's both do this. Do you need help with this? Do you want to come to my studio and help me with something? Because I know you're really good at this. And then I can show you how to, like, it's just make friends, like offer support and skill sharing and just lose the ego. And I think this is what this town has taught me a lot about that.
Yeah, lose the ego.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite venue, like for artwork or for music here in town?
Well, I'm friends with all the folks at the 5 Spot, so I always love the 5 Spot and whatever they've got going on. Todd recently put like a tiny house in the back where he records, and he'll let me go and smoke some weed back there. So that's always nice. Probably shouldn't say that, but whatever. And then of course, like Red Arrow, I love their whole catalog, like what they do and who they show. Alex over at Elephant Gallery has a very diverse and incredible program and lineup, and is able to just like incorporate artists and like materials and concepts into like the fine art world that have really not been thought of too. Like they show quilty pleasures, like looking at quilts as like a fine art or conceptual art piece rather than like a functional thing. That's beautiful. I mean, that's been going on forever, but just like you see that show, there's like a quilted toilet, and there's like just this, the way how that gallery uses things and then smashes all the perspective that you think it should be and then shows it to you like that. I really love that space a lot, and all my friends that have studio spaces there, of course, is such a welcoming spot. And yeah, I feel like the smaller spaces in the packing plant too have a lot of great stuff going on. That Red 225 place, or Red 225, that place has got some good stuff going on too.
Okay, cool. What is some advice you'd give to someone who's going to move here and do art?
I would say show up to the crawls, go to the crawls, show up, get involved, make friends, ask people what they're doing, and don't talk about yourself unless asked. And I think that last part is probably just my own advice, just because um, I think it's. As I feel like if you ask someone something, you want to know that. But if someone tells you it, you assume the other person wants to know it. I'd rather someone get to know me because they want to get to know me in the work, rather than me just shove it down their throat.
Right.
Yes.
That's a very good point. Don't talk about yourself unless asked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anyone say that, but it's very good. So, reflecting back on when you first started as an artist, what is one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome, and how did you get through it?
I think it's the grief process of like the loss of my parents. Both happened suddenly, 10 years apart, and getting through that and trying to maintain some type of like sustainable practice has been really difficult, and I don't think I'm really through it in any sense, but that the journey of trying to figure out how to navigate through it has been and what my practice has been very helpful in that navigation.
Nice. What would you say is your biggest personal growth from last year to this year?
Oh gosh. I'd say I've gotten. I think I don't. I don't go out as much. I'm just very much into working in the studio and on my practice. So I feel like just taking myself more seriously in that way, applying to more shows, that like just being more thoughtful about what shows I apply to, and not just applying to something because you can. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So how can people support you as an artist?
They can find me on social media with my Instagram, Lindsy Davis _, and my website is lindsaydavis.com. I have smaller works that are because I usually work larger scale when it comes to gallery or museum shows, but I do have smaller pieces that are way more affordable. If anyone has a hankering to do any collecting, I have prints, small paintings, drawings, sculptures, all available. And people can email me directly for any pieces or interest that they want to see.
Awesome. And if people want to help you financially, like give you money, how do they do that?
They can just Venmo me, I guess. But I'd much rather have someone like buy a piece. I don't want to just have someone's money. Like I think it's more important for me to for them to gain something from it, like just something to look at, even if it's put it in your bathroom so you can take a poop and look at something, just anything, I don't want to just take someone's money.
Yeah.
Or if a skill trade, even I teach paper making, I teach I do seed embedding in paper and flat embedding in paper, pulp painting, woodworking. Yeah, if anyone wants to learn a new skill, I can very much teach that.
Okay. Yeah, I just know some people who really like certain artists. They want to be like, I don't know how to help them. I mean, I could buy their art, but I could also give them money because I believe in their vision.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so sometimes I feel like there are people that want to do that.
Yeah. Well, then my Venmo is Lindsy Davis.
Okay, cool.
Hell yeah.
So how do you consume media? Do you have favorite YouTube videos or do you...
media, when it pertains to art or just anything?
Like music, film, TV shows.
Yeah, I love movies. Yesterday, I actually watched a bunch of VHSs, and it was what was it? Point Break with Patrick Swayze and Keanu. Oh my gosh. Then I watched what was it? Blue Velvet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Scorsese, right? No.
Yeah. No, Lynch.
No. David Lynch, yeah.
And then I watched The Flintstones, which I forgot that actor who's in
John Goodman.
No, not John Goodman.
Person who plays Barney.
No, the person who plays the evil corporate guy.
Oh.
Because he's the same guy who is the detective in Twin Peaks. And he's also the same young protagonist in Blue Velvet.
Oh.
So it was just like, and then I watched Goodfellas, which also had John Goodman in it. So I had like this weird, funny, and these are all my VHS collections. So it's just like, and like that, in, rewind it, whatever. But I just found that I always kept watching like funny actor related roles, just like meandering through. I read a lot. Currently reading Shantaram, which is like the life story of some like Australian felon who was in like the India mafia. This book is like over 700 pages and it's been passed around through my friend group, and it's now my turn. So
wow,
I'm redoing that.
It's like Infinite Jest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but then I'm also reading the new Ocean Vuong book, Time is a Mother, and he is really great, like poet. He's I think second generation Vietnamese refugee, and he has. I remember visiting home in New York, and I went to this like little. My friend would go to this like art share event, and it was like all just people who knew each other, and they would just like share new things that they were working on. And it was right after this Ocean was published in the New York Times, and he was there, and he read a new poem, and I was like, "What the fuck is this guy? This is amazing!" And then I found his books, and I just fell in love. And because I like heard him read his poetry, I like know his voice in my head, and it was just really cool. I loved his books, and then I'm reading like self-help book, Resilient Grieving, some of that, and then. This is another big book that I am very slowly, like in like slug pace, making my way through. But it's Ian McGilchrist's The Master and the Emissary, and it's like right brain, left brain. And then also, I'm always, and then I have just like educational books when it comes to like gestaltism and philosophy. And there's this book by Rodrigo Quiroga, and he is a professor over in England, London, I want to say. And he wrote this book called The Forgetting Machine, and it's like very, very contemporary brain science. And he has like proof to like show how like electrons and memories like go hand in hand, and he uses like art to show certain things. And so I really like educational books, and then like poetry books and self-help, and then just stories.
Awesome.
And then movies. I like a movie. I just started watching Fargo, the new the show. Yeah, okay. Of course the movie, love that, but it's just so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you would like to add that I might not have asked you about?
No, this has been such an in-depth interview. I loved it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I have one more question for you.
Yes.
What is something absurd you love or do?
Oh gosh, absurd. Oh gosh, what's absurd? Can you give me an example?
I like vacuuming.
Oh, okay, vacuuming. Good. Well, out of sheer boredom over the holidays, I took all of my cabinets off of my kitchen and scraped and like put the paint remover and scraped them and sanded them just to seal them with wax, and realized that I didn't do it correctly and I should not do it again. But I think that's an absurd thing where I'll just like start a project and not really know how I'm going to finish it. But scraping, something, gosh, I think I could think of something better than that though. I have like weird mannequins in my garden. Like I collect mannequins.
Like varied?
No, kind of like, but I have like just the torso and the head of a female, and so she's just like hanging out in the garden and like stuff like that. Like I'll do weird stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of anything too crazy.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for coming over and doing this.
My pleasure.
And being on the podcast. And it was
Thank you for having.
awesome.